Hi everyone, my name's Brian, and I was going to play the deck you see in front of you right now this week, but there was a banning and, more importantly, an unbanning in Pauper. So we're going to do something a little more off the wall. There, that looks better. This absolute pile is a deck I found from an old YouTuber. I don't even know if he's around anymore. He was called Pauper Fox, or the Pauper Fox, couldn't remember, and he immediately found a way to my heart by making a Tron deck with the best tribe in Magic. That's right, Rebels. Now, some of you who might be newer to Magic than my incredibly old butt is, might not know what these things are and might not have ever heard of a Rebel in Magic. Well, Rebels came from this set you see here. That little mask over there is Mercadian Masks, historically a hilariously underpowered set. It came right after Urza Saga, so they were trying to power the whole thing down. And essentially what a Rebel is historically a white creature that for 3 generic mana, or really any number of generic mana, you can get a Rebel for 1 less than the generic mana you just paid straight out of your deck. It's not out of your hand, it's not out of your sideboard, it's straight out of your deck. And you might be looking at Remosian Sergeant and going, okay, that's a little cute. I can go out and get a handful of other Rebels, ones that are bigger than it. No, you don't get it. They all do this. Every last one of them goes and gets their friends. And it just piles up and you get so many more and more and more. And that is why this is a Tron deck. This is a Tron deck because we have so much mana sink that we can just keep putting it into these and grow our board wide and wide and wide. Because outside of Pestilence, there really isn't a board wipe in Pauper. Now, other than that, what's the deck doing? Because there are some Rebels in here that really can't find each other. So let's go ahead and talk about those. So we have Children of Corliss, which allows you to sacrifice it and you gain life equal to the damage you've taken this turn. Good against things like Burn. Again, it's a nice little main board haha moment. There's a 3 Remosian Charge, and these are just 1/1s for 1 that get other Rebels. These are, again, Rebels that get other Rebels. Defiant Falcon, Rebel that gets other Rebel. Remosian Sergeant, Rebel that gets other Rebel. Squadron Hawk, not a Rebel. Now, Squadron Hawk is just in here because this is from an era of Pauper where you were really just kind of playing value things. Pauper wasn't really a fully recognized format back in these days, so most white decks had Squadron Hawks. Most white decks these days still have Squadron Hawks, but this might be something that changes in the deck, and I'll get to that in a moment. We also have 1 Aramu Seekers, or Armu Seekers? I'm not sure how to say that. And essentially this is one of the finishers, because you can really gum up the board with both flyers and non-flyers because you can pull things out of the bin, but it can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and white creatures. Back in the day, that was a legitimate way to close out the game. Aven Rift Watcher, just the one. It is a Rebel Bird Soldier. You can pull it out with Defiant Falcon, Armu Scout, Remosian Lieutenant. Gains you some life. It only sticks around for a few turns, though, and then it's gone, and there's no bouncing in this deck. It was really just played to gain a little life. 3 Bound in Silence. Now, these are fun. So, Bound in Silence is a Rebel aura, which means I can pull it up with one of my Rebel searching tools. And also, when it comes into play, I get to attach it to a creature without targeting, which means if I go up against Boggles, not only is this pseudo-removal, unless you're playing against one of the Blink decks, but it also can attach to things that has hexproof, which I find hilarious. Thermal Glider, this is another one of those in-deck finishers because it has Pro Red. Back in the day, Pro Red was more important than it is now. 4 Zealot and Elvex. Now, what these are little 1/1s for 3, but they have shadow, so they're really hard to block. Chances are, unless you're playing against my other Pauper deck, you're not going to find creatures with shadow, but if they deal damage to an opponent, or rather, if they would deal damage to an opponent, you can have this deal no damage and deal 1 damage to a creature instead. And if you get a couple of these on the board, you're really just taking out your opponent's board left and right. And finally, 1 Big Bad Ulamog's Crusher. It still is a Tron deck after all. So, lands, a whole bunch of planes that are mismatching right now because this is back from before I made my decks look good. Matching Tron lands, though. These were nice back in the day when I got them off a card hoarder. And 1 Haunted Fengraf, just a utility land to pull one of your creatures out of your bin. It's random, but close enough. And of course, for Expo maps, 2 Bone Splitters. Now, most Pauper decks these days have a plan, and that plan is a lot better than this deck. And because this deck is so old and it's really not played anymore, I feel like there's a lot that needs to be done to this deck before it would make any sense to run it through a league. If I run this through a league right now, I'm going to go 0-5 or 1-4. I think it'll be more interesting to take this around maybe a couple of one-on-one matches, maybe a couple practice games, and see what it does in the general Pauper populace. Now, that does lead to another interesting thing. Sideboards are of their era, and this sideboard is up against decks that aren't a thing anymore. So Affinity, up until very, very recently, was always a thing in Pauper. So it has 3 copies of Dust to Dust, exile 2 artifacts, which back in the day was very important. 3 copies of Journey to Nowhere, probably the best removal in white still. I don't know, I haven't checked. 2 COP reds, 2 COP greens. Green Stompy was a major deck back in the day. Burn, major deck back in the day. 2 Relics of Progenitus to go up against Graveyard Synergies, which were a little bit more prevalent in Pauper back in the day. And again, just 1 Ulamog's Crusher just stranded in the sideboard, where I really think you should either take out Armu Seekers or Thermal Grinders and have more Ulamog's Crushers. But that's what I think. Let's go ahead and run this through a couple of games, and then let's come back to it and kind of tune it together. And I do think we'll do more than one video on this. I think this is going to be a multi-part series, definitely not in a row. But let's go ahead and just see how this runs right now in a practice game or two. I'll try and cut together practice games that are interesting to either see how the deck is working well or how the deck is not working well. We'll come back, we'll do it, and we'll kind of tune it a little bit, see how what we can do when we take a deck that has been absolutely obliterated since the end of Expedition Map, and now that that new toy is back, we could play real Tron. We could. I'm sure there's better versions of Tron. Or we could play Rebels. What do you think I'm gonna do, folks? So yeah, let's go ahead and hop into, you know what, let's start with a practice game and see how it does. See you in a moment. All right, we seem to have a taker. And even in testing and tuning, we still lose the die roll. At least that'll prepare us for the actual games. All right. Opponent is nice, has told us to have good luck and fun. No. 3 lieutenants, a Bound in Silence, a Defiant Falcon, and a Squadron Hawk. That's an easy maul. Opponent also mauled. This seems a little bit more doable. Don't have more than 1 piece of Tron, but this deck doesn't really need Tron. Tron is just a way to, you know, sink all your mana into Rebels. But hey, if he's playing Burn or a red deck, we already have Thermal Glider in hand. Suppose we put Bone Splitter back, because if we don't actually have a creature, that doesn't help, and who knows how fragile our creature is going to be. There's a lot of mono blue fairies going around. Green. Ooh, Boggles. Ooh. We get to do our trick if we can survive long enough. Amaru Seekers, that does us no favors. All right, well, here's a Plains, and we'll yield. So next turn, we'll go Armu Scout, and then hopefully we just start drawing Tron lands so we can get the Bound in Silence to put on Glade Cover Scout. So they'll probably put Rancor on this. Oh no, they're just gonna hit us for 1, that's fine. I suppose they're in no rush. All right, so there's a whole bunch of things that would be good to draw. Another Mine is not one of them. Here comes the Scout. So we will be able to get Bound in Silence in 2 turns. If we're alive in 2 turns or not is the question. That's another thing about this deck. And another reason I'm just not running it through a normal league, because it can fizzle pretty easy. And I think back when it was created, and this was a little bit more casual a format, you had more time. I don't think you have as much time as you used to. So we're going to have to try and figure out a way to make this more consistent. And these one-off finishers here, drawing them so brutal. Ram through. Ugh. Okay, that's brutal. The good news is we have a backup. We get hit for 1 again. Now the question is, do we put out our guy who calls up stuff? Another Plains. Huh. Guess we can play the Mine. I guess we do still go for it. We'll bring up the Scout and hope this one lives. Because next turn, if we get to untap with it, we get to start pacifying their creatures. And normally Boggles only has like 1 or 2 creatures. They normally don't go super wide. So if we can pacify their creatures and then get down Thermal Glider, which, you know, Pro Red doesn't do anything. It's still a flyer though. It's still very bad. It's not even a Windrake actually, now I think about it, because it's a 2/1 and not a 2/2. But, you know, back in the day, this was the tech in Mercadian Mask Standard. You know, I don't blame our opponent for taking a little bit of time, because Yeah, probably has to read everything I'm trying to do. Don't be another crash through. Iliad Pilgrim, that's fine. So they get to go find an aura. Okay, so we get to do everything at instant speed too. So that means we wait for them to put the thing on and then before combat. So we just play out another planes and we just have to pass. They try and put Armadillo Cloak on Glade Cover Scout. We respond by putting Bound in Silence on it, which will allow us to essentially hopefully stifle them long enough to start getting down some of our own threats. We can also now pull out unlimited threats out of our deck because our rebels don't go higher than 3 mana. Opponent tapping. Well, there's the second thing. They have to choose where to put the Armadillo Cloak, though. They are choosing to go wide. How strange. Well, if they attack, we can just get something that blocks easy. Okay, well, they didn't attack. Luckily for us, we could just start pulling things out of the deck. So what do we want? I don't think we want to Bound in Silence yet. We don't want them to know we can do that. Zealot Elvec has to target stuff, right? Yeah, to target creatures. So that doesn't actually do us much good. So we probably want just another summoner. All right, a Ramosian Sergeant. At least we can play that. So here's our third Tron piece. Unfortunately, it's the same Tron piece 3 times. So now we just run out the Sergeant and we pass back to the opponent who literally just has Armadillo Cloak. I mean, eventually we'll just start getting Defiant Falcons and we'll just start getting them in the air. But it's really weird to see Boggles go wide like this. Normally they're trying to put enchantments on a thing and really, really punish you. Unless they know that Rebels can do this. And if they do, then, you know, either Rebels got a lot more popular since Expedition Map came out, or I am gravely underestimating how underground this deck is. All right, let's go ahead and see what they do. Here comes the Armadillo Cloak. Yes, and now, dear viewers, we ruin some days. All right, Bound in Silence counts as a rebel. And it's like, oh, who do you want to attach this to? I want to attach it to the thing they're attaching to. So that can't attack or block, and it gets a free Armadillo Cloak. Whee! Now, the unfortunate part is our opponent might scoop, not realizing that this is how this is supposed to work, but we'll see what they do. You wonder why I play this deck, folks. It's that exact moment right there. Take that, Boggles. You gonna attack their big guy? Okay, they're coming in. I guess we can let the Sergeant go. Keep the Scout. Eventually, when they let us block. So we'll get rid of the Boogle, pick 2, and different Tron piece, Defiant Falcon. So we can't Defiant Falcon and Scout at the same time. Probably surprising them with Scout is more important. So we'll just keep these untapped. And I mean, if they just attack without putting a enchantment on something, we'll just get the 1/2, the Lieutenant. You have another one? Helion's Pilgrim, sure. Man, this is really weird to see him go wide like this. Another Armadillo Cloak. Well, you know, I can do this all day too. All right. It's like they're gonna let us go steal something out of our deck. I don't think it's another summoner at this point. We're not getting lands quick enough. So maybe even the Rift Watcher is fine for now. Deal a little bit of damage, gain a little bit of life. Another Sergeant. Well, we get to play that. Even just fine as like a little blocker thing. Back for 2 in the air. I mean, we'll get there eventually. Because either they'll try and put enchantments on a Boggle and we'll lock it down with Bound in Silence, or they won't do anything and we'll just get to keep pulling stuff out of our deck. The problem is we drew all of our, like, finisher air quotes. So that's a thing. Seriously debating this Armadillo Cloak. Opponent scoops. Let's see how many they scoop. They might scoop the whole match. All right. Doesn't look like it. So their Boggles are actually all green. So COP green, not bad. Prismatic Strands, not the worst. Armor Seekers doesn't actually work. They're not red, so Thermal Glider's not the best. Zealot Ilvex also not great, because they need to target. So what do we do now? Definitely COP green. I mean, the Crusher's fine too, because it forces them to grab stuff. Is the Prismatic Strand where we want to give ourselves pro green? We could do that a couple of times. We put these 2 back. And then probably the Thermal Glider is better than the Seeker. Journey to Nowheres don't help, Relics don't help. COP red does nothing, Zealot Evex do nothing. So this is probably the best we're going to do as is. I'll show you my plan on how to change the sideboard up after this match, but so far we're just kind of playing around here. Okay, so 1 Summoner, a Crusher, and almost Tron. This seems kind of greedy, because if they get off to a really quick start, we just kind of go nowhere. But if we keep drawing lands, in theory, we're fine. You know what? We're testing, so let's go ahead and keep and see if we can find our way out of this. We also got a game to lose, so. All right, opponent starts out with a Gardine, puts a little plant into play. I will allow it. All right, missing Tron piece? Not quite. That does let us get a tower into play. And yeah, if we can go runner on the Tron pieces, that'd be great. But next turn, we'll probably just get the scout down. Opponent has an Evolving Wilds, which means best they can do is play a Boggle this turn. Yeah, so they get the Boggle out. So COP would be a good draw. The missing Tron piece would be an amazing draw. Another one of the same Tron piece would be an awful draw. Well, folks, if we draw a power plant, we're really in the money. But if we don't, we kind of sat here, drew lands the whole time, and died. That being said, Rebels is one of the few decks where, you know, sitting there drawing nothing but lands is fine because you can use your cards to, you know, get into, or you can get ram-through'd and simply take roughly $1 million. So they're going to hit us for 1. And again, we either need to draw... We just need to draw not a land or a power plant. I would take a power plant, because I don't know if they have a plan for Ulamog's Crusher. Children of Corliss. I feel like these guys shouldn't be in the deck right now. I feel like I might have forgotten to side these out. Again, they're there so that you don't want to draw them, and that's why they're a 1 of. You want to specifically tutor them up, and then your opponent does like this big alpha strike, you gain all your life back, and then you kill them on having more than 1 crackback. But if you're just playing them, that's real bad. Because if our opponent goes next turn, Armadillo Cloak, attack, we're kind of super behind the 8 ball. You know, unless we draw Urza's power plant. We draw Urza's power plant, we're fine. But if they go Armadillo Cloak, then not a ton we could do about it. Well, there's the Rancor, finally. This feels like an Umbra. Yeah, you get Umbra. So that might as well hit us because it's dealing damage anyway. It tramples the thing, so we need to draw a Summoner or a Power Plant. And truth be told, our deck is full of Rebels that get other Rebels, so that shouldn't be a hard ask. I mean, I feel like we're just going to draw basic Plains, though. In my heart of hearts, I know what's on top of the deck, and it's a basic Plains. Okay, well, the good news is we can just at the end of their turn put Scouts back into our hand, because we only have 1 creature in our graveyard right now. But boy is sitting here and drawing lands, and Children of Corliss just bad. So bad. Oh, that's a Kithkin. Look at that. It's a Kithkin Rebel Scout. I always thought it was a human. All right, our opponent gets to get in again for another big crack. Now, on their end step, we get to Bengraph. All right, so we traded one of our many land cards for something useful. So we can scout, or we can Expo map, tutor with Expo map, get Tron. I think it's better to do that, because we can always gain our 4 life back next turn, and then we just have unlimited mana for the rest of the game. So let's get us a power plant, play a power plant, and yield through the turn. I suppose we should be attacking with Children of 4, but not so much. Okay, well, our opponent is also going to start to have lands and stuff soon, which is bad. Just occurred to me that they were kind of stuck on lands as well. There's another Boggle, because we've been taking forever to get started here. I go to 7. I'm gonna... Yeah, because that gives them... Armadillo Cloak gives them trample, so that's not going to be a useful blocker next turn either. Okay, so we get to play a tower and go 6, 7, 8, Ulamog's Crusher. And then we get to play out our guy as well. And this is a big turn, because either our Crusher lives and we really start to punish them, or we have to chump with Ulamog's Crusher, depending on how many enchantments they can get down on that 1 Glade cover. Also, if our Armu Scout lives, we can get Critical Mass there too, because they definitely have Armadillo Cloak. Ooh. Oh wait, no, they can have another land. They can have another land. That can only be blocked by things with flying, so they get to hit me with that. That's fine. I mean, I get to deal them 8 next turn, so it seems fair. Another Expedition map. Okay, so we need 4 mana for Armu Scout to get bound in silence. We already have Urza's Tower, so we probably don't need to do Expo map. But if we do this, and we do this, then let's go to combat and see what they do. So they get rid of the plant, but the other, like, what else are they going to get rid of? If they get rid of the plant, they can't block with... Oh, they got rid of a Boggle. They're just going to take 8? Yeah. I guess at this point, we have nothing better to do with the mana. I almost think we get another Plains, because we have unlimited colorless. That's not a problem. So let's just pull that out of the deck. Yeah, now we can stop whatever their big creature is, because we can tutor up the Bound in Silence. And that's the match. Okay, so... what did we learn with match 1? Let's go back and look at the deck. What was really doing well? What was not doing? I think these little one-offs are questionable. Like, there's a full 4 of them. I think Armu Seekers are from an era that doesn't exist anymore. Because let's even bring up MTG Goldfish 1 second. Okay, so Boggles is up there, Mono Blue is up there, Burn is up there, Boros Bully. That's where I think Armu Seekers is not going to do us any help. Ymir Fair, Is It Fairies, Jeskai, Ephemerate, Goblins, and Mono Green Aggro. All right. So with that general, and in fact, actually, I think we need to fix this. Okay, so that should get rid of Slivers. Okay, well, I know what I'm doing next week. Let's see. So yeah, I think Armu Seekers is not where we want to be. I wonder if we want more Thermal Gliders. Even Rift Watcher's probably fine. That's just a fine creature. Thermal Gliders on the cusp. Children. I don't know about Children. I think the rest of the deck... Ooh, the Bone Splitters. Okay, so let's actually just pull everything to the side, which is questionable. This whole column here, this 10 column, this is the questionable column. Squadron Hawk, Bone Splitter, Children, Armu Seekers, Aven Witch Watcher, Thermal Glider. And in the sideboard, the questionable is Dust to Dust and Relics. So what could be better here? I think we want 2 Ulamog's Crushers in the main. I think having those a little bit more often would be good. I think even having the 4th Bound in Silence is correct to get a little bit more pseudo removal. So if we get rid of the Armu Seekers, which are doing us no favors, for a 2nd Ulamog's Crusher, and we get rid of Thermal Glider, or Thermal Glider goes... In fact, this is even probably looks better like this. So that just right off the bat. Thermal Glider lives in the sideboard for red matches and burn matches. And Ulamog's Crusher is just in the main. Bone Splitter, I think, is kind of like a Hawk thing. It's kind of like a Winmore scenario, I believe. So if we cut if we cut 1 Bone Splitter for a 4th Ramosian Sergeant, we cut Armu Seeker for a 2nd Aven Rift Watcher, and we try it like that. We run another match. Ooh, we can even cut the 2nd Bone Splitter for... So this turns into Aven Rift Watcher, this turns into Ramosian Sergeant, this turns into Bound in Silence. Okay. I don't think I have those cards. I'm going to go get them, and then I will record again. So I will catch you guys for our 2nd dip into the pool. I'll also fix the planes while I'm doing this, so at least they all look the same. And yeah, we'll come back for another match and see if that made the deck any better, or if I made it worse. Okay, so at the end of all of that, we now have 3 Rift Watchers, 4 Sergeants, 2 Ulamog Crusher, 4 Bound in Silence, and got rid of a lot of the one-ofs. Let's go ahead and jump into another game and see if this is a little bit more consistent versus whatever we happen to run into. All right, we seem to have a bite. And we lost the die roll. Who could have guessed? So this is the Squadron Hawk start. Don't think that's good enough. This is a much better start. So we'll put one of the Squadron Hawks back because we're going to go get those soon anyway. And our first turn will be Sergeant. Our second turn will probably be Squadron Hawk. What is this particular person up to? Oh, it's the combo deck. We have anything that stops the combo deck? Don't think so. So I think this is the deck that taps and untaps a bunch of things, cycles a million times, and then gets us with Crypt Rats. Maybe that's a reason to keep the relics in the sideboard. They'll probably start... Ooh, am I wrong? Is this not the cycling thing? I don't know what this is. Okay, I can dig it. So our Bound in Silences are actually terrible against this, because they can just bounce our stuff up and down. So I guess we just fill our hands with Squadron Hawk so that we don't draw them. So there we go. That's the power of Squadron Hawk, is not necessarily in the 1/1 flyer. It's just I just took a whole bunch of air out of my deck. They're going to swing in with that. They'll probably then replay the enchantment and then probably bolt one of my things. Bloodthirst. Okay. Is this like Stompy-ish? Stompy things? Just doing Stompy things? Okay, so we have 3 mana to play with. I don't think bounding that thing in silence does anything, because again, they could just bounce stuff. So I do think we just play Scout and just swing over the top of Squadron Hawk, because we're not blocking anyway. Maybe that's why the Bound in Silences weren't that high, because there's so many decks that just bounce things and turn your Bound in Silence into straight up dead cards. Of One Mind, wow. Opponent's deck is neat. 5 color nonsense. I mean, they're just outvaluing us right now. No two ways about it, because they're going to swing for 4. Oof, that's scary and brutal. Opponent is still outdrawing us too. All right, so we can search or we can just put out 2 Squadron Hawks and then try and do some blocking. Probably better just to play the Squadron Hawks. No, we're good, and no, we're good. All right, so we have a whole bunch of Hawks. We'll go into blocking mode for now because we have another Tutorer in our hand, our little Kifkin. See what our opponent does. Yeah, just strike, sure. So I feel like there's some kind of blowout, but I don't know it, so we kind of have to just see what's going on here. Because this is not a great trade, but we can't just sit here and take damage the whole time or we just die. I'm expecting a blowout. Okay, that's not good. Oh, they had 2. That's even worse. Okay, so this game's just over. It's just like 5 color value. Just get up and go for it. Journeys seem good. Other than that, they're very diverse in how they deal damage. So what's not good? I think the Bound and Silences are not good. We take out the Bound and Silences, put in the Journeys, and then we put in a One of Fun of something. Maybe we just keep a Bound and Silence in. Okay, let's just try that. There's a Bound and Silence. I guess that can be like a 1-turn pacifism. All right, 2 Tron lands, a Crusher, and 2 Tutor guys. I mean, it's kind of the best the deck gets outside of having an Expedition map. So we'll start with a Tron land, just in case we draw the 3rd one and our plans suddenly change, but we'll see. Opponent just plays a tap land, which is fine by us. Squadron Hawk. Well, I actually think we get down the Tutor target. And as long as we don't draw a Squadron Hawk next turn, we actually feel fine. Wild Nicottle. Sure. Another tap land, that's fine. A Sergeant. So at this point, we want to play a Plains. Go attacking, because I doubt they'll block, because they can make that Nicottle bigger. Okay, and then second main, play out the Sergeant, and then play out the Squadron Hawk and pull 3 birds out of the deck. There's all 3, making our hand nice and healthy again, but it's mostly birds, let's be honest. And we really want to find a Expedition map, or we really want to find a Urza's Power Plant. Man, the Urza's Power Plant is really just hard to get your hands on. More draw things. So opponent is just playing like a Curdape enchantment draw thing, which is fine, because like in Pauper, you wanna have your draw states. Expedition map. Okay, that changes things. So play the Expedition map. We have to keep 2 mana up to then Expedition. But that's fine. We can just go ahead and swing over the top with this and keep some pressure up. Because then the turn after that, we get to play Ulamog's Crusher, and I'm hoping that's enough. So put our opponent to 17 past the turn. I mean, they could probably do a whole bunch of stuff. I don't know how much actual damage they can do. Then again, they seem to be playing a deck of just all the answers, so I wouldn't be surprised if they have a way of getting rid of Ulamog's Crusher, but at least we'll give them something to think about and bait out some sort of removal. All right, they can hit us for 3, that's fine. Curdape. Good old Alpha Curdape. Another Nicottle, that's not great. Okay, well, it's definitely a race on sort of scenario. So let's go find the missing Tron piece. Get the Power Plant. All right, and pretty much our turn is just Big Stomper, do Big Stomper. So we have Big Guy, which is, it's one of the other payoffs for playing a Tron deck. I don't feel too bad playing, Ulamog's Crusher on top of my, flavory, derpy little, Rebel deck. If they remove Ulamog's Crusher, though, that's pretty bad news. I mean, we have a lot of mana, and we do have 2 Tutor things, so that's fine. Okay, so they're drawing a card. That's not that scary. I mean, just like a cast down, though, gets Ulamog's Crusher pretty bad. Oh, no attack. That's fine. Because what we can do now, because we have so much mana, is play the Plains, do this, go get the Bound in Silence we didn't take out of the deck, and put that on a Wild Nicottle. So now their blocks aren't great. Oh! And they've decided that's that. Okay. That went pretty well. The Bound in Silence actually saved us there, which is interesting. So, like, do we take a Squadron Hawk out and just put a second Bound in Silence back in? Because the Sergeants are good, the maps are amazing, Scouts are good, Falcons are good, Journeys are good, Lieutenants are good, Squadron Hawks have been okay. Haven Riftwatchers are great against this kind of aggro-y deck. Zealot Elvek, are those too slow? Is a Zealot Elvek better than a Squadron Hawk is the question, because I guess we need 3 Zealots in play to actually start taking stuff down. And now that I say that out loud, that kind of sounds awful, doesn't it? Because, it's going to take 3 turns in these games that have really only lasted about 4. So I think Zealot is just too slow in this matchup, / our opponent's creatures are too big too quickly. So if we give up on Zealot, that means we put Bound in Silence back in. And what else comes in? Is it the Thermal Glider just because it's evasive against this thing? I guess it can also block a Curd Ape. Not the worst. Okay, so let's try that for round 3. This hand is awful. So, mull. This hand is better. So keep... I actually think the Fengraf does us no favors. So, what? First turn, we either Sergeant or Urza's Mine. It's probably Urza's Mine into Expo map. Yeah, because there's another Sergeant. Whatever creature they play is going to be bigger than Ramosian Sergeant. Ramosian Sergeant isn't going to be able to search next turn because it'll only be turn 2. So I guess we just go Urza's Mine Expedition map. And if we can draw the second Tron piece, that's great. Otherwise, next turn we might just be searching up something. Ooh, that's not good. That's the opposite of good. That's even worse. Oh, no. No. Oh, dear. Come on, what's your... Wild Nicottle. And is it a Curd Ape? Because... Oh, just a lightning bolt. Ugh. Well, I'm super glad we didn't play the Sergeant. So we're going to start getting wrecked for 6. That's so brutal because next turn... So at the end of this turn, we Expedition map for a Tron piece, and we're just trying to find answers at that point. Because either that or I can play Ramosian Sergeant this turn. I don't think playing Ramosian Sergeant is worth the 2 damage we'll block. So we'll let that go, and we'll just have to get one of our missing Tron pieces and just hope we draw well. But this is awkward. We need like an Aven Rift Watcher, which I think Ramosian Sergeant's just too slow to kind of do right now. Well, that makes Nicottle bigger. That's not good. So we're going to get hit for 7. That's so brutal. We need to start taking some of these creatures out. All right, go get an Urza's piece. The tower's fine. Ulamog's Crusher. Okay, so now if we find the missing piece, we're good, but we kind of have to stay alive. So that involves putting down Nicottle. Now, if they have the Skyfisher, they got us, but we're kind of running on borrowed time right now. Because even attacking us for 4 is quite a bit. Yep, nope, if that's just the plan, then we are not doing great. And there's no way they have nothing in their hand. Oh no, that's exactly what we didn't want to see. So Nicottle goes back to their hand, Bound in Silence goes away. Where did they bounce? Hold on. Oh, Abundant Growth. And we draw Urza's Tower and not the power plant. That's bad. Because next turn they can attack for lethal, so we have to put out blockers, so it has to be Sergeant. Sergeant, I think we lose here. I think we're just dead. Now, I should have known to get the power plant because we haven't been drawing the power plant all night, and then we would have been able to slam a Crusher and maybe turn this around. Electrickery, and that's the game. Okay, that's a thing. So what have we learned there? I mean, I guess if we learned if the core Fisher thing is going to be everywhere, Bound in Silence is actually pretty bad. I didn't mind not having any of our one-offs, though. That I didn't mind at all. I think the Dusts to Dust can turn into something else to the sideboard, because very clearly, we have nothing for enchantments, which is really weird in white. So I am going to go ahead and go back to the drawing board before we record the 3rd game. I'll probably even record the 3rd game tomorrow, just to see how we can kind of hone this together. Because I think what we learned is we're still great against Boggles. This deck just has a good Boggles matchup, because Boggles is not used to their Boggles getting looked into. That very aggressive deck, though, we had nothing, because they just kind of went wider and stronger than us, and they were 5-color, which we really had no way of punishing. So I'm going to go back to the drawing board one more time, and you will see me again soon, folks. Catch you then. Okay, so everybody, sit rep. It's been a couple of days. I've had a little bit more time to play with the deck a bit, and I can tell you a couple of things from the tuning. Pretty much we got 4 Bound in Silence now, and in the sideboard, instead of Dust to Dust, we have Angelic Purge. So Angelic Purge can also hit artifacts. I just haven't been running into enough affinity to think I need Dust to Dust. Please let me know in the comments if that is a error, but Angelic Purge being able to hit enchantments is very important, I found, because Pestilence just wipes the map with this. I've also found out in some off-camera testing that this destroys Boggles. So if you have a friend who plays Pauper Boggles and you really want to show them, much like I did in the first match of this video, play this. But yeah, seems like we'll go ahead and do another match and see how we feel. And at the end of that, we'll see if we'll call it there or if we'll keep going. All right, folks. See you in a bit. All right. And wonder of wonders, we've lost the die roll. 1 land, no keep. I mean, this has Tron. This has a lot of lands, but it has Tron. So let's see what we can do here. If we could just top deck into... I guess we don't actually need the expedition map. We can just top deck into not lands. This will be amazing. If we can find like an Ulamog's Crusher, that'd be cool. What is this person playing? Get this out the way. We need more area for gameplay. Mountain. Could be a lot of things. We drew a land. Oh no. Oh man. Come on. I did like a whole bunch of video or a whole bunch of games that I didn't record. And the one I'm recording, we're just gonna sit here, draw lands, and die, and I have to show people it because it proves a point. All right, I feel like my Sergeant's not gonna live very long. Nope. Okay, so it's against Burn, which I guess it's good to see how this plays against an actual meta deck. Let's go ahead and see. And Bound in Silence. Well, I'm sure that'll be scary if it wasn't for the fact our opponent's creatures don't really have to attack us. Normally with Burn, the opponent's creatures just sit there and they do a million things and they kill us that way. Yeah, like for example, that guy, he doesn't have to attack. So please deck, not a land. Expedition map. Guess we'll get another Urza Tower or something. Hopefully this way we stop drawing lands. Yeah, let's just get rid of that now. I don't want no more lands. No more lands, please. Another Urza Tower this way because like if we can get one of our creatures to stick, we can really get terminal velocity pretty quickly. But right now, this is looking real bad. This is looking like our opponent's doing stuff and we're sitting here playing lands and dying. Yeah, see, that's another creature that Bound in Silence just does nothing too. Yep, okay, he's just healed through the turn. We're just gonna take 1,000,000 damage for every spell they cast. Yeah, another one? Come on, you know got another one. Another Bound in Silence deck, why? Why though? I guess just so that we have something to do, we can Kessig, get our Sergeant back, but 0% chance that thing lives. Because at this point, we need to get down our Sergeant to get the bigger person to then go get, oh man, just yield, to get Aven Riftwatchers, because Aven Riftwatchers are our way out of this. We also have COP red in the sideboard, so maybe the sideboard games will be better. But we're already at 8. It's turn 5. They have 2 creatures in play, so I don't think we'll be doing anything that'll stop them from just killing us. This is something I've noticed with Bound in Silence. It's not a great card in Pauper. It's good specifically against Boggles. So again, if your friend plays Boggles, play this and you will absolutely dumpster them. But against most other things, a pacifism effect doesn't seem to do much. Oh, we died. All right, so we want Thermal Glider, we want COPs, Prismatic Strand maybe, but we definitely want COPs. Rental damage, that's sources of color. Okay, so these are actually good against red too. What do we not want? We don't want Bound in Silences because it doesn't actually do anything to any of their creatures. Zealot Ilvik also seems too slow because it can only deal 1 damage at a time and all their things have 4 toughness. So if we bring these in, does that mean we then bring in the Journeys as opposed to the Angelic Purges? Because the only difference is Journey to Nowhere can only hit creatures, where Angelic Purge can also hit Curse of the Pierced Heart. And enchantments are a major problem for us. Boy, I wish we won game 1 so we could try it. I just think these are better. So let's go ahead and bring in the Journey to Nowheres to stop their creatures. But if they play multiple Curse of the Pierced Heart, then you know how to yell at me. This is also part of brewing, is going against these meta decks that are very well tuned, and you're here doing derpy things. It's not very fast, but it has an Aven Riftwatcher. I mean, I don't think we find better than this. Because first of all, our first creature is going to die, and the only positive to this is our Aven Riftwatchers deal or gain us life when they both enter and exit the battlefield. So truth be told, I don't think we can have a better start than this. Opponent plays a Mountain, has a Rift Bolt, we have a Defiant Falcon, so whatever we're going to play is going to die. I don't think we want an Expedition map. I think we can run out the Lieutenant. Because if that gets anything other than a Searing Blaze, I feel like that's fine. Because next turn we have 2 Aven Riftwatchers, so we have 8 life queued up at the moment, which is probably good. It depends on how many cards they draw. If they draw a bunch of cards, 8 life is nothing. But if they just kind of go down in life, gaining 8 should be enough for us to gain some sort of momentum. Okay, so there's the Searing Blaze, which is the worst thing that could have happened. But now we have Riftwatchers. We also have Prismatic Strands, which kind of blank turns. Opponent took a minute to read that. I have to assume because it's an Aven Riftwatcher, a card from Planar Chaos. All right, there's the thing that's going to deal us 1,000,000 extra damage a turn. Not much we can do about that. Unless we draw a Journey to Nowhere. Nope, we drew a Plains. So I think it's important to play the other Aven Riftwatcher, keep our life total high, and we'll start giving them some pressure. And then next turn, we can crack the map and play Falcon and start getting Tron lands. That's a good thing about this particular, it's Rebel Tron, but it doesn't need Tron to function. It just gets out of hand when you have Tron. All right, there's the other creature, so that's fine. I mean, we're at 17. We just need to be able to bleed their hand. And we have one more Aven Riftwatcher in the deck, which Defiant Falcon can even go get. There's another land, though, which means I think we go Defiant Falcon, and then we just swing with the 2 Riftwatchers, and then the first time they try and deal us damage, we do it on their upkeep. No, I guess we try and fizzle a spell, because we'll get to fizzle at least one spell with Prismatic Strands. Because even if they then, kind of trigger a whole bunch of other things, like they go off at instant speed, the Prismatic Strands will still fizzle whatever the first thing they do is. Opponent's thinking really hard. They're probably doing a lot of math, because the Aven Riftwatchers probably screwed up their math a bit. We're going to let this go. We're going to take the 1 and hope that means we can save ourselves more damage based on whatever they now do. Going to combat, sure. I mean, if all you're doing this turn is dealing me 2 damage, I'm even glad I didn't. Okay, there's the 2nd damage. Is that all you had? Opponents in their 2nd main. I mean, they've dealt us 2 damage, which is nothing. We're going to gain that back when Aven Riftwatcher goes to the bin next turn. And if they just pass, we can just Expedition Map, find a Tron land. And if they want to go off at that point, that's fine. Okay, cool. So now those go on the stack. And while those are on the stack, so at least all 3 of these are going to get blanked. So we've saved ourselves at least 5 damage. Okay, so we're still going to take 5, which is fine, because we're not taking 10. That's the important part. And next turn, I mean, they know about it now, so it's not as powerful, but at least... Okay, so we only saved ourselves 4, which is fine. It's not great, but it's fine. Okay, so there goes 1 Aven Riftwatcher, and the other one's still here, so we go up to 12. Unless we draw the 3rd Aven Riftwatcher, we're probably saving our mana for Defiant Falcon to go get the other Aven Riftwatcher. Yep, we get dealt damage, that's fine. A Squadron Hawk. That actually seems better, because that'll give us things to tap for Prismatic Strands. Plus it gives us things in our hand. Okay, so we have 2 Squadron Hawks, which now means both of our creatures are free to attack. Put them down to 11, and next turn we're going to go up 2 life. We're also going to tap down one of the Squadron Hawks and fizzle a little bit of their damage. Not a lot of bit of their damage, a little bit of their damage. Okay, they're more than allowed to hit us with Kesef Fire Breather. Because, we're losing 2 damage a turn next turn, so we kind of need to let that go. And if they play, Skewer the Critics or something, we'll just Prismatic Strands it anyway. Oh, really? Okay, if you just want to deal us essentially 2 damage for the whole turn, that's fine. So there goes Aven Riftwatcher. We go up life. Journey to Nowhere. We can play a Squadron Hawk, and we can also then journey the Kesef. Well, let's try this first. Let's try throwing out a Squadron Hawk or the Prismatic Strands. If they go off now, we have to... Okay, so they didn't. And now we journey to Nowhere. Probably the Fire Breather. Okay, you can deal me damage, that's fine. If you play a spell, we have the Squadron Hawk. It's a Lava Dart. Okay, so that would be 3 damage. And they can have 2... So we have to let this go, because I have to have something more than a Lava Dart. If I have another spell, I'm going to go for the Lava Dart again, which would put us to 4. Maybe we waited too long on the strands. If we do this now, this only saves 2 damage. Because we take a damage from Kesef Fire Breather, and they get to untap this guy. Then do they let Lava Dart go? We have to take this damage as well, which is unfortunate. So now we kind of have to do this now, or we just die from having nothing. Then again, they're out of mana. Fire Blast, huh? Okay, well that got us. And again, that goes to show you that you just have to bleed burn out of their hand. Because yeah, there's nothing we could have done about that. Okay, I guess we should have gotten the Aven Riftwatcher, but that is this deck against burn. It looks like it can win, it just needs to be tuned a little bit more and maybe played by somebody better than me. We'll go ahead and do one more match, I reckon. I don't think we'll do a full 5. This deck just doesn't seem up to it. But yeah, let's go ahead and run this back one more time and see if we can at least go even. All right, we're up against Shade 20. Hopefully they're not playing Burn. Hey, we want a die roll. This doesn't even look that bad. Maybe one turn too slow, but again, this deck isn't exactly tuned to be explosive. So let's just go ahead and drop a Plains, leave them confused, because we don't have Ulamog's Crusher in hand, so we don't have to try and go for the Hail Mary of the Urza's lands. All right, first bit of information from our opponent, a forest. Please don't be elves. Oh, no. I don't know how we beat elves. I'm not going to lie, guys. Again, Bound in Silence, really bad here. The Zealot Ilvek, though, actually does some work, so that's good. But first thing we're going to do is just cast our Scout. I want the Defiant Falcon for later. And then next turn, we'll play Zealot Ilvek, and we'll start killing things on turn 4. You know, how a deck that plans on winning against elves does. All right, 2 mana into Saproling Migration. Interesting. Oh, not letting the elf die. Another Zealot. Okay, that actually seems good. So we'll play Zealot Ilvek, and starting next turn, we'll just start pinging things down, and we'll have a second Zealot Ilvek as well. That'll be good. We should have played the Defiant Falcon because it can fly, but I'm bad at Magic. Also, guys, if you have any idea which might make this deck work, let me know. I thought about maybe putting in Ramosian Rally and having Prismatic Strands in the main to try and just kind of force pass everything, but you do need to gain momentum for that. More... It's like a Saproling deck. Okay. I fear that less than elves, especially since I get to start killing 1/1s pretty soon. Okay, if we find the Tron piece, that'd be great, but... Yeah, no, you can attack with the Saprolings if you want. I will not block. But here's the fun thing. I'm recording, and you can't hear me. A Sergeant. Okay. I think we still just play out the Zealot, and we'll kill the Llanowar Elf. So the way this works is you swing, it's unblocked. So this trigger comes up every time. Sometimes you even have to target your own thing, because it's not a May ability. You have to target something, and then you may deal it damage, but you have to target something, even if it's itself. All right, and kill the elf, and yes. Okay, so we turned our guy into a really slow prodigal sorcerer, but hey, it got there. Shade's 20 seems to be at a bit of a loss. They should probably just start going beatdown. Interesting. Another Bound in Silence. Man, those look so bad in the deck. I feel like I shouldn't be playing that. All right, so first things first, let's go ahead and beat down. I reckon the tokens are what he's trying to do. I reckon the Shepherd, like, could somehow even come back from the graveyard, so let's not kill that. Let's just do Saproling and Saproling. Boink and boink. So those both die. We only have 1 white mana, so now we sadly put out the Defiant Falcon too late. And now we can really start getting critical mass on our board. Oh, and our opponent seems to have been land screwed that game, so they've scooped. Okay, against like a tokeny... Well, okay, so these are in the sideboard because Green Stompy was a deck back when this deck was first introduced to me, but I think COP Green is good. I think these are bad against tokens. So let's try the COP greens. The Bound in Silences just seem bad. Is there anything I want to put in instead of Bound? I guess the Prismatic Strands, because he looks mono green for now. He might not be mono green. We might be surprised, but based on what we saw of just trying to do a million green things in like Llanowar Elf, I think it's just a green deck. If it turns out to be like a Golgari deck, then, well, I was wrong. This has 3 Squadron Hawks. It sure has 3 Squadron Hawks. Let's try for something better. That is immediately better. Unfortunately, I think we have to put back the Crusher, even though that's such a fun card. I think everything else in the hand just does better stuff. And it's not mono green. Okay, so he scooped because he had essentially a problem getting a second color land. We don't have Tron, but we do have a Plains. So it seems to just be like a white-green token deck, which I can see. Yep, there's the migration again. You could just attack me with the Rune Law guy. I wonder if Aaron Doomsayer is better than Rune Law Enforcer. Okay, so we can start playing out some of the Tron things. We might as well put out the Lieutenant, because the Zealots is going to get tapped down by the Rune Law Enforcer, which, like, next turn, if we have nothing better to do, that's fine if they want to start reserving a mana a turn to tap down our Zealot. But while we're setting up our Zealot, our Lieutenant can do a little blocking and get ready to start tutoring stuff up. If it doesn't get removed here, I mean, they're in the amount of mana now where they can just have straight-up removal. Yep, it's just Shepherd. They didn't attack, so my Sergeant did his job. Or Lieutenant, not the Sergeant. Sergeant's the 1/1. Ramosian Sergeant, is that more important? No, because it's not going to be able to tutor this turn, so we'll put this out, and we'll, like, bait the Zealot Ilvek. And if he wants to start spending his turns tapping that down, that's fine. Because now with Ramosian Lieutenant, we can also get more of them, because there are still 4 in the deck. And it looks like we're going to win with Squadron Hawks, Defiant Falcons, and Aven Rift Watchers, because it really looks like the board's going to be gummed up with a million Saproling tokens. I guess Zealot Ilvek, if I just decide I don't want to ping stuff down, can also win. Our opponent is down to 2 cards, though. So you should really just Alpha Strike here and, like, let a token die. Or attack with nothing. Interesting. And we have Tron. Okay, so that lets us go to the zoo. So we get to play out the Sergeant. They're tapping down the Zealot, that's fine. Because we're not going to get anything with the Lieutenant now anyway. We're going to wait until either they try and attack or they pass to their end step. Because the Lieutenant can get stuff at any time. Okay, so that is the plan. I mean, it can do a lot of damage, but... Hey, Brian, remember when you had Prismatic Strands in your hand? Good times. Just Aven Riftwatcher time? Yeah, that's looking like the best option. Because we gain life and kill a token. So we're down to 13, but now we know to leave up Prismatic Strands. So, yeah. That can do that, that can do that. If we play out Urza's Tower, and we don't play the Ramosian Lieutenant from our hand, we just search with the other guys, we can do the Prismatic Strands, because they're going to tap down Zealot, which is fine. And then we just pass. And the Ramosian Lieutenant can get something big, and the Ramosian Sergeant can just get the Kithkin Scout and block something. Because if he has another one of those, we'll just Prismatic Strands after they attack. Okay, they're just going to do a normal attack. No, okay, so we get to... Oh, wait, what are they doing? 4 mana. Oh, it just makes another token. Sure. That's annoying because that token's white and Prismatic Strands, you know, isn't going to protect me against more than one color, but hey, we'll just start getting mass here. So why don't you get me a Scout? Why don't you... So the only thing different is the Aven Riftwatcher. I guess we get another Zealot, because I can't tap down 2 now, can they? And we have another Summoner on the board in the Scout. Another Power Plant. How nice. So essentially what happens is this goes here, and then we attack, because even if we can only ping down one thing a turn, that's worth it. Yep, that's fine. Because we get to kill a Sapperling, and if they plan on going wide, this is how we stop them, is by taking out little things one by one. If this creature was released today, it would be black and not white. It would deal damage and kill a creature. And if that creature died, it would be exiled. But hey, every now and then, white got something, if it was even just incredibly temperamental and only useful some of the time. I also think these creatures here are the reason why in Kaladesh, they weren't rebels, they were renegades. Which is hilarious, but, you know, what are you going to do? You attacking, or are you just allowing me to play a bunch of creatures from my hand? Nope, they're going to strike. Okay, so let's go get some friends. This can get that. This can go get a Riftwatcher. So if they do the Inspired Charge thing, we want the white ones to die. Well, actually, we wouldn't kill anything now, would we? Because they would all be 3 power. But I guess we just block as is. So kill that, trade with that, trade there. And if they do the whole Inspired Charge thing, we get to save. Oh, no, they just... That's the match. So it was an interesting kind of token deck we were up against. But you can kind of see how this deck is in a real liminal state. It's not good enough to be tier. It's really not. But it's also too good to just go up against jank. In fact, why don't I switch to the wrap-up and we'll talk about it there. Okay, so that was 4 matches with Rebel Tron, and what have we learned? We've learned that it's definitely a tier 3, tier 4 deck. It has enough of a plan that when it gets going, it really, really gets going, but there's just something missing here. It's just not strong enough to go up against the normal meta. It's not strong enough to go up against, you know, fairies. I played fairies when I wasn't recording. It got demolished. I played Affinity off when I wasn't recording, and actually I only got to play the first match and I got destroyed, and then the guy disconnected. Problem with the practice rooms. But yeah, so adding more Bounce and Silence, getting rid of the fun ofs, and just making it a little bit more consistent is gotten it to the edge. Definitely what's interesting is the strongest thing are the Aven Rift Watchers, because that's kind of like the top tier of us getting stuff. And that's why I was wondering if the idea is to remake the deck. Here, I'll go get it. Is this the Ramosian Rally? So it could be 4 mana, which, let's be real, this deck can do. It's Tron. Or you can tap an untapped creature rather than play the mana cost, and everything gets +1/+1. If you mix that with the Prismatic Strands, then chances are you can just walk by your opponent. But that seems really more like a token strategy. That doesn't seem like you're making use of the rebels. And let me tell you, whenever you get Ulamog's Crusher down, it goes to the zoo. You know, it goes ape. But that's not Rebels. That's just now Tron doing Tron things. And the reason I like this deck is Tron makes the deck better, but it doesn't make the deck work. So this is essentially a call to all you Pauper players out there. Like, what am I missing? What do I not know about the meta? Where do I need to go to try and get my little derpy Rebels here into something that's going to be a little bit more competitive? And is the answer that just Rebels are not supported enough in the proper meta to be able to go do B? Is it one of those moments where, you see Rebels nowhere because they're bad? And that could totally be the case. Rebels could just not be strong enough, and it could just be a fun deck that every now and then I play just for giggles. But I think I've been going on long enough. Again, guys, I've been Brian, the 4 out of 10 Magic player. This is my 4 out of 10 Magic the Gathering deck that I just absolutely adore and can't stop playing, despite the fact that it's really not that good. And yeah, no, please hit me up in the comments. Let me know what I'm doing wrong. Let me know if there's some way to make this more powerful. Let me know if this shouldn't be mono white. I'm appealing to you guys because I know you're better Magic players than me. But yeah, until next time, see you there.